In this lesson, you will learn how the main human reproductive structures support one connected biological process. Look at the two simplified body system diagrams in the center. Each has different organs and pathways, yet both belong to one reproductive journey. We will follow the visible routes carefully and use them to understand what happens, where it happens, and why the sequence matters. Puberty is a hormonally controlled transition to reproductive maturity and secondary sexual characteristics. Its timing varies normally between individuals. The timing band gives us an important rule. Puberty timing varies normally between individuals. The same broad transition can occur at different times. Hormonal signals coordinate puberty, but individual timing differs. Puberty prepares the reproductive system for maturity while secondary sexual characteristics develop. Keep the biology separate from stereotypes. Puberty is biological maturation, not a personality rule. Body changes do not determine a person's abilities or interests. Use the hormone cue and timing band together. What does puberty bring, and why should its timing not be treated as identical for everyone? The diagram separates the shared change from the variable timing. Puberty brings reproductive maturity and secondary sexual characteristics under hormonal control, while its timing varies normally between individuals. The timing band shows the same broad transition occurring at different points. Next, we will trace how the male reproductive system produces and transports the sperm gamete. Sperm gametes are produced in the testes, transported through the vas deferens, joined by gland secretions, and carried to the urethral exit. The testes remain cooler outside the abdominal cavity. Follow the highlighted route from its starting point. Sperm gametes follow a defined transport pathway. Production, transport, added secretions, and exit occur in order. The testes produce sperm gametes, while ducts and glands handle transport and secretions. Their external position helps keep the testes cooler than the abdominal cavity. The route separates production from transport. Testes produce sperm, ducts transport sperm. The organs have different but connected functions. Trace the route once more from the first sperm marker. How does the male reproductive system produce and transport the sperm gamete, and why are the testes outside the abdominal cavity? The arrows and temperature cue give the complete explanation. The testes produce sperm gametes, which travel through the vas deferens, receive gland secretions, and leave through the urethra. The testes are outside the abdominal cavity to remain at a lower temperature. The diagram separates production, transport, and exit. Next, we will trace the ovum gamete through the female reproductive system and connect each structure to its function. The ovum gamete is released from an ovary into an oviduct. The uterus supports implantation and development, while the vagina forms the birth canal. Follow the ovum marker before reading the function labels. The ovum gamete enters an oviduct from an ovary. The root begins at the ovary and moves into the tube. The ovaries provide the ovum and the oviducts transport it, while the uterus supports implantation and development. The vagina has a different role as the birth canal. The function labels prevent a pathway mistake. Female reproductive organs have different connected functions. Transport, implantation, development, and birth are not the same job. Use the ovum arrow and the two function callouts. How does the female reproductive system support the ovum gamete, implantation, development, and birth? The diagram assigns a different job to each structure. The ovaries release the ovum gamete into the oviducts, the uterus supports implantation and development, and the vagina forms the birth canal. The structure function labels show how the roles differ. Next, we will connect the sperm and ovum gametes to fertilization in the oviduct, implantation in the uterus, and placental exchange. Fertilization usually occurs in the oviduct and forms a zygote. After divisions produce an embryo, implantation occurs in the uterus, where the placenta supports exchange without direct blood mixing. The two location labels prevent a major mix-up. Fertilization occurs in the oviduct, implantation occurs in the uterus. The two events happen at different places and stages. The zygote divides while moving toward the uterus, where the embryo implants. The placenta then supports exchange between maternal and fetal circulations while keeping the blood supplies separate. The placenta inset shows exchange without one shared bloodstream. Placental exchange occurs without direct blood mixing. Oxygen, nutrients, and wastes move across an exchange boundary. Use the two location labels and the placenta inset. Where do fertilization and implantation usually occur, and what does the placenta do? The sequence fixes both locations before showing the exchange function. Fertilization usually occurs in the oviduct, implantation occurs in the uterine lining, and the placenta supports exchange of nutrients, oxygen, and wastes between maternal and fetal circulations without direct blood mixing. The image separates the two sites and the later exchange function. Next, we will examine what happens in the menstrual cycle when fertilization does not occur. If fertilization does not occur, the uterine lining breaks down and is shed as menstruation. About 28 days is a textbook approximation, while real menstrual cycle timing varies. The branch shows what changes when fertilization does not occur. Without fertilization, the uterine lining is shed as menstruation. The lining does not stay in the same state throughout the cycle. The uterine lining changes through a repeating cycle, and without fertilization, it breaks down as menstruation. The common 28-day figure describes an approximate pattern, not an exact schedule for everyone. The timing card prevents an oversimple rule. A menstrual cycle is not always exactly 28 days. The textbook number is an approximation, and timing can vary. Use both the no fertilization branch and the timing card. What happens in the menstrual cycle if fertilization does not occur, and how should the 28-day figure be understood? The branch gives the biological outcome, while the card gives the timing caution. If fertilization does not occur, the uterine lining breaks down and is shed as menstruation. About 28 days is a textbook approximation, not an identical cycle length for everyone. The visual shows both the condition and the timing variation. Next, we will connect both reproductive systems with the sites of fertilization and implantation in one complete pathway. The male and female reproductive systems provide sperm and ovum gametes. Their pathways connect at fertilization in the oviduct, followed later by implantation in the uterus. The convergence point gives us the main location rule. Gamete pathways meet at fertilization in the oviduct. The uterus becomes important later for implantation. The two systems use different routes to provide the gametes, then connect at fertilization in the oviduct. The developmental pathway later reaches the uterus for implantation. The full pathway reduces to one location contrast: oviduct for fertilization, uterus for implantation. That contrast keeps the sequence correct. Use the two-lane convergence and the final uterus card. How do the male and female reproductive systems connect gamete production with fertilization and implantation? The lanes show separate contributions followed by one shared sequence. The male reproductive system produces and transports sperm gametes. The female reproductive system releases the ovum gamete into an oviduct. Fertilization usually occurs when the gametes meet in the oviduct, and implantation occurs later in the uterus. The convergence point and final card show the two locations clearly. Next, you will use location, pathway, and cycle clues to solve an unfamiliar reproduction diagram. The mystery cards reuse familiar clues about puberty timing, the sperm pathway, fertilization versus implantation, and menstruation. Identify each idea from visible evidence. Make the diagram support the biological conclusion. Use location and pathway evidence before naming the stage. The strongest answer points to the clue that makes the conclusion correct. Identify the visible clue first, then match it to the taught concept. Location separates fertilization from implantation, while pathway and condition clues identify sperm transport and menstruation. The final rule is the same across every card. A biological claim should match the visible evidence. Use the structure, location, or condition shown. Choose the card where location is the decisive clue. Which card best corrects the misconception that fertilization occurs in the uterus, and what evidence does it show? The two different locations make the correction visible. Card C best corrects the misconception because it shows fertilization in the oviduct and implantation in the uterus. The separate fusion and attachment locations make the distinction clear. You are now ready to explain human sexual reproduction using puberty, gamete pathways, fertilization, implantation, placental exchange, and the menstrual cycle.